For the tutorials today, I wanted to show you a few adjustments you can make outside of the project, and I'm using a few of my personal photos as examples. So you can see this one I took was really washed out, really overexposed, and I want to see if I can get some of the color and detail back in this picture. So let's see if I can get it back to how it should look using adjustment layers. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to play with brightness and contrast. I'm going to take the brightness down a little bit. Okay, don't want to go too extreme, so I'm happy with that. I'm just going to pick the contrast up a little bit because when it got so washed out, it lost some of that detail. Okay. And the next thing I want to do is tweak the levels. I'm noticing that my darks are nice and my lights are good, but I want a little more nuance in those midtones. So if I look at my levels here, let's see, if I drag this, I'm clipping the dark parts of the image and making more of it black. Don't want to do that. If I drag this one, I'm clipping the white parts of the image and making more white. I don't want to do that. So what I want to actually do is play around with what is determined to be a mid-range here. And I like what's happening on this one on the outside of the barn, but I don't like what's happening with the nice details on the inside of the barn. So I'm going to tweak this layer mask so it only applies to the outside of the barn. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to make sure I have the mask selected here. And notice how it's this white rectangle. Now if I come in with the paintbrush tool and I make sure that I'm painting with black, then wherever I paint will mask off that layer effect. So if I make this larger, so you can clearly see it, and fully opaque, and I come in here, I'm basically painting away that adjustment filter. If you look here, you can see that the black that I'm painting is showing up in the mask. If you want to go in and look at it, you can hold down Option or Alt and click on that, and then you can see if you missed any areas with your painting. I like to do that at the end, so I'm going to click out of it by holding down Option or Alt again and clicking on the layer mask. And first I want to do all my adjustments out here. I'm going to make my brush a little bit bigger. There we go. And I'm just trying to get the inside here. Make sure I don't lose all the nice detail on the interior of the barn. And because that shadow behind the sheep was actually important for making that kind of believable as a recessed space, I'm going to come in and make sure that gets painted back. So I've gone too far with my painting. I want to make sure I get it done. So now I'm going to switch to a white brush and come back. Make sure the figures stand apart here. And I'm going to put my opacity down a little bit and actually have kind of a gray painting over back here. So we still get that nice shadow behind the sheep. Let's see if I missed any areas by holding down Option and going into the mask that I painted. And put my opacity back up. Make sure I'm painting with the black. And hold down Option again, go back to my image. Nice. Just going to come in a little bit and make sure this stays dark. Command Z to undo because that was too much. Set my opacity down and just give this a nice little shadow too. Make sure this clearly recedes into space. Okay, so that is applying adjustment layers and adjusting your layer masks. Now this is another thing that takes tweaking and nuance and delicate touch, so just keep practicing and you're going to get better and better at it the more you do it. I'm still looking at this and seeing it's a little flat, so I'm going to come into my color balance layer and now see I can adjust the levels of cyan red, magenta green, yellow, or blue, and you can choose to adjust the shadows, the midtones, or the highlights. Just to show you an example, if I have highlights on and I make those really red, see how that's mostly affecting the lighter parts of the image? And now we really see how blue this image is overall. I want to tweak the midtones where that red is. So I'm coming in more towards red. Good, and I already tell it's getting a lot more vibrant. Don't want to go too red. A bit towards the green. And let's go a little bit towards the yellow to get away from the blue tones here. You can tell when you're going too far, especially if you have a figure. Just check and make sure that the skin tone looks normal. If they start looking crazy and non-human or sickly, you know you've gone too far with your color balance adjustments. Okay, I've got a much nicer, more vibrant red on the building. Getting a little happier with that. I may want the grass on the ground, even though it's winter, to just be slightly more green. So I'm going to do one more color balance layer, and I'm going to have it be more in the shadows. Let's see if I go a little more towards green. That's nice. And what I'm going to do is have that apply only to the grass. So I'm going to make sure I'm in the mask. I'm going to have black be the color I'm painting with. Make my brush bigger. Make sure that's opacity up to 100%. Okay. Don't want that green really on the inside of the building here. Or on my ant. Just making sure it only applies to the grass. Not the sheep. See the difference? The layer taken on and off. So there's still a lot of green back here. Take that out. And let's go into my mask, fix up edges there. See how we're doing in the image. Brush smaller. I'm just doing quick jobs here just so you get an idea of what I'm talking about. I'm not going to spend too much time fine-tuning these and going crazy about it. You can lose hours doing this stuff for sure. Let's bring a little bit of green back here with the white brush. And look at the image again. See if I'm happy with that adjustment. It's really just applying to the ground now. That looks pretty nice. Getting closer to the vibrant image I remember. I may just want to make that red pop a little bit more with one more color balance layer. Really bring out the red of the barn. As I'm doing this, I'm really realizing how blue-green this image is overall. It could stand for a little bit more red. So just made that small section pop a little bit more. But I actually want to go back to this color balance layer now come in here, double click on that, just add a little bit more red there to the image overall. That looks pretty nice. Okay, so you can see with some subtle, delicate adjustments, I've got something a little closer to what I remember things looking like, and I'm a little happier with the image overall. So just to show you again with no adjustments, that's my original image, and then notice how it changes just by applying some filter layers. So there you have it. Those are adjustment layers and masks. Simple intro.